Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. FPL Consult here, and today's video is the first of a new series that I am launching on the channel titled My Watchlist. Now the nature of this video is that I will be recording it directly after the deadline stream. So in this case, the Game Week 11 deadline has just passed and I'm recording this before any of the Game Week 11 games have been played to let you guys know of a couple of players that I'll be keeping my eye out for during the Game Week 11 games, and if my impression of them changes moving forward, I will update you guys in the transfer tips video. So this is a bit of a preamble, but also a little bit of a focus on the players that I myself will be targeting for my team going into the Game Week 12 deadline. So I hope this video is helpful for you guys and gives you a bit of an idea of who to target for the next few game weeks. If you enjoy it and you have any feedback for me, please do leave it in the comments below. But if not, let's start off with the first player, who is Danny Welbeck at 5.9 million. So his ownership is currently at around 20%, which at first glance to me was quite surprising. I didn't expect him to be so highly owned, but when I look at the performances that he's put up over the past few game weeks and the numbers, I start to understand why people continue to hold on to him. For the period from Game Week 5 to Game Week 10, he put up 4 goals and 1 assist. That averages out to almost 1 return every single game, and it's not as if he got lucky. The XG numbers really back that up as well. In those 6 game weeks, he got 3.02 XG, and that obviously led to him scoring 4 goals. So there's no real overperformance there. And in terms of big chances wise, he got 6 big chances. So that is almost 1 big chance every single game. So I do think like the numbers are very promising for him. And in terms of him as an FPL asset, there are many different avenues to points for him, because now he seems to be on direct free kicks, that's one. And whenever João Pedro is not on the pitch, he is the one that is on penalties. So at 5.9 million, for him to get entry into these different routes to points is very promising. And also with the fixtures moving forward, which is also one of the key reasons why I'm looking at Danny Welbeck now, is Bournemouth, Southampton, Fulham and Leicester is looking really good. And in fact, for a long period of time, until you probably next need to use your wild card, Brighton players are the ones to target now from Game Week 12. So I think that's mainly why I'm looking at Danny Welbeck, and he will be playing against Man City. By the time you're watching this, he would have already played, and we'll see how he does in that game. But regardless, I still do think like he's one of those key players that I'd be monitoring and looking to bring in from Game Week 12. On the point of João Pedro coming back from injury, because we are getting news that João Pedro is going to be back soon, I don't think he competes with Danny Welbeck in the number 9 spot. Like for sure, João Pedro is capable of playing there, but I look at the dynamic right now, Danny Welbeck is playing so well that I do think he continues to retain that spot, and I don't think Evan Ferguson, who is his more direct competitor, would come in for him at any point in time in the starting 11. So I'm not worried about Danny Welbeck. And in terms of João Pedro coming back, I do think like João Pedro will be competing with Jorginho Rutter, for example, in the number 10 spot. So I do think like Danny Welbeck, minutes wise moving forward, look very secure, and he feels to me like one of those players that we were targeting in the past few game weeks, like Matheus Cunha, where you bring him in and you're fine to just set and forget, and you deal with other areas in your team. So I think Danny Welbeck is someone that I'm really looking at. Let's see how he does against Man City, and I'll reassess again in the transfer tips video later on this week. So next up, it's Alexander Isak, who has seen a bit of resurgence in his form since coming back from injury. And I do think as well that it's come at a very nice time, because Newcastle's fixtures moving forward start to get pretty good from an attacking standpoint. It's West Ham, Crystal Palace, Liverpool in Game Week 14 is not easy, but then in Game Week 15 it's Brentford away. So the fixtures start to get quite good for Newcastle, and that's mainly why I'm having a look at Alexander Isak. But I do think like there are a couple of things as well that put me off. Firstly is the price point. It's 8.3 million, so it's quite expensive. Do I want to spend that money on him when there are other players that we just spoke about, for example Danny Welbeck, who can offer a lot as well, but at a much cheaper price point? So first question is whether he justifies that 8.3 million price tag. Secondly, the Newcastle attack. Now again, I'm recording this before they play Nottingham Forest. I don't expect them to score a lot in that game, so we will reassess after the Game Week 11 games. But for me, the Newcastle attack is not an attack that has been scoring a lot of goals of late, and attacking numbers wise, they have really dwindled down in the past few game weeks. It's not as if they are the team that we remember from the past few seasons scoring for fun. This season, I think they're struggling a little bit, so it plays a bit into my mind as well. will there be games moving forward where Newcastle score a lot of goals and Isak is the one that's involved in them? So those are the main considerations for me, but mainly he's in my watch list here because I will be replacing Haaland. I do have quite a bit of money and I don't mind spending a bit more on Alexander Isak, who is a bit more of a differential compared to other players, but also in that I do think he's a player who has the ability. So if he is to kind of come back into form, I could be early on this train as well, and they do have the fixtures for that. So Alexander Isak, definitely on my watch list. We'll see how he does in Game Week 11 against Nottingham Forest, but if not, let's have a look at the next player. So next up is Nicholas Jackson at 7.9 million. He is a player who I feel has been going under the radar quite a bit. And as a Chelsea fan myself, I'm quite happy that I'm considering Nicholas Jackson on my Game Week 12 watch list. He is a player who I feel under Maresca has seen a lot of improvement. And I think the main issue under Pochettino was that Nicholas Jackson was getting those chances, but he was not converting them into goals. But now what we're seeing this season is that in the past 6 game weeks, he's put up 3.2 XG and converted that into 4 goals. Now in terms of chance creation as well, it's pretty decent. 3 big chances created and thereafter getting 2 assists. So I think Nicholas Jackson is a player this season who feels a bit reborn. He's a player that has come into form, and with the fixtures moving forward, Leicester, Villa, Southampton and Tottenham, I don't put it past him to get returns in those games. So he's firmly on my watch list, and also the fact that Chelsea's attack is an attack that looks much more improved under Maresca, in that they feel like a team that can go on and score many goals against opposition. Now in Game Week 11 specifically, they will be playing against Arsenal, so that is a tricky game, one that I don't imagine Jackson will get much joy in behind. The Arsenal defense is still the defense that I feel is strong enough to keep potentially the big chances down to a minimum. So even if Jackson doesn't score in that, it does not mean that I don't consider him from Game Week 12 onwards. But something that looms at the back of my mind about Jackson is the 4 yellow card situation with him. I do think like he's also the kind of character that could very well go on and get that 5th yellow card because he is quite explosive as well as expressive. And if that is looming at the back of my mind, do I just wait a little bit for him to get the yellow card and then move for him? But that obviously poses the kind of threat of missing out on potential points if I don't buy him sooner with these good fixtures. So something I'm thinking about. But Nicholas Jackson, definitely one of the Haaland replacements that I'm looking at for my team right now. So speaking about players on 4 yellow cards, Ryan Ait-Nouri is also a player currently on 4 yellow cards as of recording, and by the time you're watching this, he would have already played Southampton, and if he picks up a 5th yellow in that game, he would obviously be removed from my watch list. But for the time being, he is here because longer term, as we've spoken about Wolves, they are a team with very good fixtures until you next need to wildcard. But I do look at this block of 4 fixtures here, and I don't think there's a lot of clean sheets for Wolves. Fulham away, Everton away, West Ham away in the next 4 is quite tricky, and even the home game for them, Bournemouth are a team that are doing pretty well attackingly. So in terms of clean sheets, do I think that they are there for Ait-Nouri next few game weeks? Maybe not. But the counterpoint to that is also that clean sheets this season for any team in particular have been few and far between. You look at the fixtures every game week and you can't really tell who is going to keep a clean sheet. So I do think like from that perspective, I don't mind just going for a cheap defender at 4.7 million. If he doesn't keep a clean sheet, so be it. If he does, it's a bonus, and mainly rely on the attacking returns, where Ait-Nouri is definitely one of those defenders who has excelled in this department this whole season. So I do think like he's a player that's still firmly on the watch list, very attacking, and one of the most attacking defenders in the Premier League so far this season. The fixtures moving forward, again, as I mentioned, I don't expect them to keep loads of clean sheets, but I don't mind just buying him if I'm okay to forgo the fact that he's currently on 4 yellows, similar to Nicholas Jackson, or do I wait for him to pick up that 5th yellow before moving for Ait-Nouri? So the next defender I'll be keeping my eye out for is Lewis Hall at 4.3 million. The best thing about him is that he's very cheap as an entry into the Newcastle defense. You look at the fixtures moving forward, in those game weeks where you don't imagine there will be clean sheets, at 4.3 million, I really don't think you mind benching someone like Lewis Hall. In the past few game weeks as well, his minutes have been looking pretty good. In the past 6 game weeks, he has made 6 appearances, 5 of them were starts, and 1 of them was coming on at halftime. So overall, overall, minutes looking pretty good. From an attacking standpoint as well, you look at the heat map, he's not a player that is afraid to venture forward, and he's put up 1.19 xg. So I think Lewis Hall is a player that if I can guarantee his minutes moving forward, I don't mind going for. The only thing is that Kieran Trippier missing out has largely contributed to Lewis Hall getting more minutes, and as of the official FPL website, it seems as if Kieran Trippier could be back as soon as after the international break. And could that mean that Lewis Hall gets dropped after that? I don't think it will happen immediately, but I think his minutes starts to come into question a little bit, which is something that is putting me off. But then again, he's so cheap at 4.3 million. If that does happen, you can just leave him on your bench and start your other defenders. So I don't mind going for Lewis Hall right now. Definitely keeping an eye out for him. And now they play Nottingham Forest. The Newcastle defense of late has started to look better and better. And you will remember they kept a clean sheet against Arsenal just recently only. So if they are a team that continues to look consistent defensively, at least based on recent performances, I don't mind jumping on Lewis Hall as a bit of a differential at only 2.8% ownership. So finally, the last player that I have in today's video is Milos Kerkez at 4.4 million. Again, he's one of those very cheap defenders but with very high attacking potential. And I do think like this is where the game is tending towards. A lot of people are stacking their midfield with premiums right now. Your Salahs of the world, your Palmers, your Sakas. That you don't really have money for premium defenders, and in fact the premium defenders aren't really justifying their price tag right now because the bigger teams aren't keeping clean sheets too. So why not just go cheaper in defense? And I think Milos Kerkez is definitely one of those players I'm strongly considering. He is very attacking, as you can see from the heat map beside me. He does spend a very good chunk of his time in the attacking half trying to put in crosses as well as creating chances. Over the past 6 game weeks, he's created 2 big chances and also gotten 2 assists. These 2 assists, you would remember, was against Manchester City. So not easy to get attacking returns against a team like Man City, but he's done it. And overall, when you look at his playstyle, he's a player that really does not fear venturing forward and just getting involved in the attack. So I do like that. And in terms of the fixtures moving forward, I do think as well that Game Week 12 is a pretty decent entry point into Bournemouth players, whether it's defenders or attackers. I currently have Semenyo in my team, and from Game Week 12 onwards, he's a player that I foresee I will be starting quite often. But from a defensive standpoint, I don't mind their fixtures as well, because their difficult games moving forward are at home, and at the Vitality Stadium, Bournemouth are a team to be reckoned with. It's Brighton at home in Game Week 12, and in Game Week 14 is Tottenham also at home. So their slightly trickier fixtures at least are at home. And in terms of their other fixtures away from home, those are slightly easier games in Wolves and Ipswich. So I do think like moving forward, there will be clean sheets for Milos Kerkez to have. And also if you add attacking returns, that's potentially double-digit hauls there. So again, on the off chance that you can cater for rotation and you want to bench him in those slightly trickier games, it's not the worst thing in the world as well, because he's only at 4.4 million. It's not difficult to bench him in those tricky fixtures. And now in Game Week 11, he will be playing Brentford. So let's see how he fares against a team who are pretty good attackingly. Brentford this season defensively are poor, but attackingly they put up quite good numbers. So let's see how Kerkez fares against Brentford, and I will reassess again in the Game Week 12 transfer tips video. If not, this wraps up today's watch list video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and found it useful. If you did, please do drop a like. Please do subscribe as well, and leave a comment down below if you have any feedback for me on this watch list series to see how I can improve it for future videos of this series. If not, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you very, very soon. Bye bye.